and I covered nationally, but like a lot of times I always say that a lot of our radio regionals, they were married or they had families. And on the weekends when there would be like an Ozfest and there would be we would have 6 bands on Ozfest and there'd be meet and greets and promotions and roadie for a day and stuff like that. They would tell our boss, Dave, like, Dave, Amy doesn't have kids. Can she go out and cover that for us? We have our kids this weekend. And my boss would be like, you want to go out? I'd be like, yeah, I loved it. I would be like, I had to make sure that Zakk Wylde would sign his guitars or that Corey Taylor and Joey would be ready for their meet and greets. And there were times when it was like, I'll put on a mask if I can't find these guys and go do it because I'm as tall as Joey or whatever. But
that is fucking hysterical.
It was true. I mean,
I think I had a 2-hour conversation thinking that you were Joey one time.
I know. I double for him. I'm his doppelganger.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Benny Goodman, and welcome to another episode of 2020. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Go and like it. If you don't like it, go and tell us why you don't like it. It's fine. We can handle it. I'm here with my cohorts, Siobhán Cronin.
Hey, guys.
My cohort on 2020, our show, 2020-d.com. Do you want to tell them to subscribe as well?
Please like and subscribe.
And then, of course, another guy that's probably going to tell you that you should subscribe and like and go to 2020-d.com because it's with Sound Talent Media. Cory Peza.
It's a free country. They can do what they want. But if you do go to 2020-d.com, you can buy a t-shirt with our faces on it.
Yeah, so go do that.
And it's Paul Lorenzo, our drummer, who did that shirt. And he does art too. So if you like it, go check it out. And, buy our faces.
So this week we have a really special guest. Speaking of that, speaking of PR and marketing ourselves and telling people to subscribe, we have an amazing guest, Amy Sciarretto, who comes to talk to us about all things
awesome.
Music, metal, PR, radio, like all the
Dare
tips
I say, hold on. Is she the queen of metal?
Oh,
she hates that you call her that.
No, she's the queen.
She's going to hear this and be like, why?
No, you want to know why? Because she didn't say it. If she was the self-proclaimed queen of metal, like that's obnoxious.
But that's how cool she is, that somebody else actually proclaimed her that.
And that she's annoyed
like,
by
no.
it? Yeah, I think that's awesome because you want to know what? If I was the queen of metal, I would still go by it. I bet you Angel Vivaldi's like, I thought I was the queen of metal.
You'd put that in your bio on Instagram if that was you.
I absolutely would.
You would wear that like a badge.
Hashtag fabulous.
But no, Amy's amazing. She's had such a long and well-known career in the industry. She worked with bands like she got Kill Switch. She has All That Remains. She has Starset, which is always cool because we get to
they're mysterious.
Worlds are colliding here.
Do you guys work in mysterious ways like God? Like, are you a flood that kills a bunch of people, but you were just mysterious?
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, the list of people she's worked with was amazing to hear how many people she referenced. I'm like, and she's so young. It's like, how did you have time in your life to work with this many people? Yeah.
And it just kind of goes to show you that she's lived it from the beginning, right out of high school, got into the industry, and without giving too much away, it's just a really great story. And especially this episode, we get to hear, how she became, this it girl in this.
There's a reason why she's where she is, and it's because she worked really hard and she walked uphill both ways in the cold and the heat by herself because she wanted it, and that's metal. This is Amy. Check it out.
Hello and welcome to another edition of 2020. My name is Cory Peza, and I'm here as always with my cohorts, Siobhán Cronin.
Hello.
And Benny Goodman.
Hey, Cory, how are you doing?
Doing great, Ben. That was a very polite response.
You always
Appreciate
savor
that.
the moment, right, when you've been introduced. You always wait a second, yet every other time you'd love to just jump in.
Yeah,
sometimes you just got to be relaxed.
You are not that often relaxed, but I'm glad that you're relaxed on these shows sometimes, for a little bit. We have a great show today. Super pumped. We're going to be talking to the founder and president of Slitter PR, working with bands like Kill Switch Engage, All That Remains, friends of ours, Korn, and even I see Starset here, which we got to get into a little bit. And she's
Aren't they
also
Scientology.
Exactly.
Okay, Ben, let him introduce our wonderful guest today.
She's also an extremely accomplished rock journalist, writing for publications like Revolver, Alternative Press, Guitar World, and a whole lot more.
She's queen of metal!
Yes, Queen of Metal.
Oh,
and so we're very happy to welcome Amy Sciarretto.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being with us today.
Wow.
Cory mentioned that, and I was reading about you, and I'm the violin player in Starset, so I believe maybe we didn't cross paths. You mentioned, I think in an article I read that you were working with artists that were at Razor and Tie, and I actually joined like shortly before we switched over to a different label. So that was cool to find out we have some common history.
Yeah. I work with Fearless. So
I'm sorry, not Razor and Tie, Fearless. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I do most of the Fearless bands. So yes, so I've been working with Starset for a couple of years now. So wow.
Okay. I'm surprised we haven't met yet, but
I know at a show or something.
Yeah. Well, I guess this year is kind of out for shows.
Yeah, I don't think
shows.
Yeah, I know, right? I remember those.
So, Amy, why don't you just give us a little more background about yourself? Talk about, your company and what you do, on a daily basis.
Sure. Well, I worked at Roadrunner Records for a really long time. And then I started my own company, which is Slitter PR. And after I left Roadrunner, a lot of the Roadrunner bands came with me, Killswitch, Gojira, Machine Head. I still was working with them. And I actually still work with Roadrunner, I'm like a an extension of their PR department. And I have been since I left, and I love it. It's a great team, and, it's my family. So I still do that. But I started my own company in the end of 2012, early 2013, I think it was. And I basically, was working with some of the other Roadrunner bands, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And then it just started snowballing from there, where a lot of, managers or labels that I had worked with or had written about their bands were coming to me and like, hey, I have this project, I need you on it. And it just like snowballed from there. Within 6 months of starting it, I needed an assistant because it was just that busy, and I never expected it. And had I known it would take off the way it did, I probably would have done it sooner, because it was a lot more lucrative than any other job I ever had. But I was also never the kind of person that's like, oh my God, I want to like deal with business administration and stuff like that. So I basically, the company's been growing ever since exponentially. Every year is our best year yet. So we're very blessed and very lucky. We work with amazing bands. It's not just me, it's me, Mike, Tim, Seth, and we always have interns. Right now we have Caitlin and Monique, who are amazing. So it takes a village, to do everything that we're doing and to handle all the bands that we handle. But we basically handle all press aspects for all the bands that we handle. The Pretty Reckless, we have I Prevail, we have In This Moment, Trivium, Killswitch, tons of bands that we work with, and on a pretty much daily basis, just making sure that their press profile continues to grow, continues to develop, and continues to get better.
How does someone end up in PR versus, I'm curious about your background growing up. Obviously, you're a music lover. How did you find your way into the world of marketing, PR, and working with artists?
I basically, was a music fan, like really from a young age. Like a lot of my friends, their first concert was always like Ozfest or Lollapalooza or, Mayhem or Warped Tour. And my first concert were like Kiss and AC/DC when I was still single digits in age, because I had really cool parents.
Your parents are awesome.
Yeah, I did. I had really cool parents. When I first
they wanted the best for you, and they gave you the best.
Yeah, I wanted the best. I got the best. But like seriously, when I met Brian Johnson from AC/DC for the first time at an event that Elektra, his label, had sponsored when I was still writing, I told him, I said, like, I saw AC/DC when I was like 6, and he like kissed me on the forehead. He said, your parents are fucking crazy, and that's awesome. But my oldest brother was a huge music fan, and he used to sit in his room, and he would let me put a headset on with him, and we would listen to like vinyl records, all Kiss, AC/DC, Journey and Aldo Nova and Joan Jett and stuff like that. So I was really influenced at a very young age to like music, to love music. It was like a real big part of my life. Like some people listen to music, and then some people it's part of your life. Like I was going to concerts, I was wearing the t-shirts. I mean, I have a picture of myself when I was 4 years old wearing a Kiss t-shirt.
Well, I have a very important question. I'm sorry to interrupt,
Sure.
but
No,
we had our drummer Paul Lorenzo on, and he loves Paul Stanley's banter on stage. In fact, I don't know if you've seen it, but on YouTube, there's like a 48-minute mashup of almost all the bootlegged banter of Paul Stanley on stage because it's some of the best. Having seen Kiss, is there anything you've heard him say that you just said to yourself, this is why I love Kiss?
No, never. It's it's because he's reading it off a teleprompter. You know, it's rehearsed.
Thank you.
I could
Helsinki.
never anything that he says has been fed to him by whoever's running. It's like Ron Burgundy and Anchorman, you know, and they, you know, it's like whatever they put on the teleprompter, Burgundy will read it.
So he wasn't hot when he asked you about hotter in hell? Like, cause he always says, is it hot in here? And I just thought it was hot in there. And then they just played the song because of it.
I think that's for all the guys in the front row, I guess.
Okay.
I can't see the
guys in the front
teleprompter.
row. James Simmons will disagree.
Yeah, well, true. They're all backstage waiting for him.
So you grew up loving music and obviously attending concerts. So at what point did it occur to you that this might be a career, or was it sort of organic, the growth into that?
Well, I always used to watch MTV when they actually played videos. You know, I would want to be I would watch the VMAs every year and I loved it. I looked forward to it. I'd be like, oh my God. And sometimes when they would like cut to a commercial, you would be able to see people running backstage with headsets on like this and the clipboards. And I always used to think, because I didn't have any natural talent to be on the stage. So I was like, I want to be the person who's back there seeing everything that's going on and making it happen. I just knew it from a very young age from watching it. I was like, I want to do what those people are doing, because whatever's happening back there is probably pretty cool. So I just knew it when I was really young. I mean, I was always so, you know, watching MTV for the videos and the people who were involved, and I would watch the Grammys, and I loved all the music award shows because of that. And when I was in high school and college, you know, all my boyfriends that I dated and all my friends, that we would go to shows, and I would just pick up music magazines because they were very prevalent and prolific at that time. So I would just pick up the free music magazines that were when you're at a venue. They would be outside, you know, or right in the little. Yeah, right. There was tons of
get the Boston sound check, and it would tell you all the bands, and the back was all the funny business. You could see all like the local stuff, and like people actually cared.
Yeah, then you could.
They read, and guitar players actually read. It was amazing.
Yeah, they actually could read. But I used to
got the bass player to do it for them.
Yeah, or the drummer. But I used to. I would just reach out to those magazines or have friends like hook me up to write for them. So I found out early that I could get the music early, get it for free, and interview the bands that I love and talk to them and write about it, because I was a good writer. I
love that, because I got to tell you this. I feel, when I was reading about you, I felt so much in common with you, because the first thing I realized, being the BS artist that I am, was if I want to get free music and if I want to go backstage and meet people, work for somebody and say you write things.
Yeah.
So my first thing I ever did was write for Boston Soundcheck, and I did a review of Korn and Black Sabbath or Ozzy or something like that. And he was like, "You're great, kid." So I started having him fax stuff with his letterhead over to everybody, and that's how I met Slipknot, and that's how I met Ozzy and Pantera and all these bands. And it was so amazing. My mom would be like, "You got 6 things in the mail," and it was all CDs.
And it was awesome.
And it's the best thing. And I gotta tell you, that's how I know you're the real deal, that you are the queen of metal, because someone who says to themselves, "I'm gonna do this so that I can be around music all the time," is someone who really does love music.
Yeah, I just was like, wow, I'm getting it for free, and I get to talk to the bands. And, you know, I liked writing too. I was a good writer, just naturally always in school. So I was like, wow, I can combine all the things that I like into one. And I just did it, and it just snowballed. It was typical, like everything that I did. It's just like you start doing one and then another one hits you up. Hey, you want to write for us? So I was writing for like the hardcore magazines, the local monthlies, the weeklies, because they had tons of them back then. They don't exist anymore. But that was the only way you could find out about bands and get to know things, was by reading them in magazines. So that's what I used to do, and it just spiraled. And I would always take on new magazines. And then I started getting paid for the things that I was writing too. So I was like, wow, I can get paid and get it all for free. It was like, wow, all my friends in high school and college, they were like going out partying and going to bars. And I was like, I'm just going to go over to Philly because I grew up right outside of Philly. I'm going to go over to the Chalk and go see, Fear Factory. And I'm going to go see all the opening bands because I wound up loving all those bands too, or writing about them. So I just knew really young, and I always wanted to do that. And when I got to college, I ran the college radio station, I ran the school paper, did the music section, I interned, and I just kept looking for more magazines to write for.
That's amazing. So when your first shot at writing, when you wrote into the magazine to ask if you could write for them, was this in high school or college? It
was like the end of high school and early college.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. That's so bold, because you're right. I mean, so many people just be like, oh yeah, I want to do this, but like don't ever take the first step. And I think, a lot of people would be surprised to hear that sometimes you just have to reach out and like ask for something, and then you get that opportunity.
Or they just don't know what they want to do. And like, I had friends that were like when I was graduating college, I was having job interviews before I even had a diploma, and I was going up to New York because I just got so ensconced in it, and talking to publicists and radio people and getting to know people who already had the jobs that I wanted, and working with them by writing and working at the radio station. So that was like, it was an easy entry point for me. And I had friends who, while they were like getting ready to graduate and getting their degree, still didn't know what they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I was
can we slow that down for 1 second? Because you just said something super, super, super important that I admire so much, and I think is so integral to people's success. You found someone doing what you want to do. Then you associated with those people. Then you said, how the heck do I do this?
Yeah, of course.
And it's great because I was told a long time ago by someone in the industry, like anyone who's good at anything that really appreciates what they're doing, if you ask them questions, they'll help you.
Yeah.
And you asked the questions and you got in there and you did it. And that's so important for people to realize that no one's going to help you. So while everyone's going to school and thinking, hey, I'm going to get a job, the people who are getting the real jobs are the people that are going on the scene and saying, I want to do music, and you're showing up and watching Static X before Fear Factory and waiting out by the tour bus to be like, yo. And that's how you meet those people, and you do all that sort of stuff. So I encourage anyone listening, there's a reason why Amy is the queen of metal. And you're hearing
that
right
term.
I like it.
I did not christen it myself. It was a magazine.
Well, then that would be lame. You can't make up your own
nickname.
nickname.
No, of course not. I would be so silly. I would never, that was just be douchebaggery. But no, that was from a magazine. Like a magazine said that about me when, and they did a feature on me when I worked at Roadrunner, and I used to just, that just kind of got carried away. So.
That's incredible, though. Just like, seizing your career before you're done with school. Because that's a lot of people will ask me, if you go to music school, there's so many people that get in the endless loop of like, okay, I'm going to get a bachelor's, I'm going to get a master's, I'm going to like just keep waiting for the career to like find me when I get out. But so many of the people that start a career, it happens while they're doing that, like before they're even done with school even. You kind of have to jump on that and be on the front end of getting that experience in the real world,
Mm-hmm.
So that's incredible.
Out in Gen Pop.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I just didn't, I just knew what I wanted to do. I never it was never wavering. It was never like, oh, maybe I want to do this or this. I was just completely, headstrong and ambitious and like convinced that that's what I was going to do. And I made it happen. I mean, when I got my first job out of college was CMJ. And I wanted to work there so bad because it was the intersection of all the things I loved. It was the music industry. It was a music industry trade magazine. And I wanted to, work in the music business and be a writer. So that was I could write about the music business. I mean, how perfect is that? And write about music at the same time. And almost like I remember when I interviewed for the job there, when I was getting out of college, like they showed me the stack of resumes that they got for the editorial assistant position. And it was like as tall as I was, and I don't know how I got that job. I was just persistent. They took forever to make a decision. There was 2 editorial assistant positions, and I had the job interview in like early May before I even graduated. And I knew I wanted that job so bad. And I had other job interviews that I went on, and I knew I was going to get offered a few of those jobs. And I just waited until July, and I called them a few times, went back for a second interview. And this was they were based in Long Island at the time. So I had to commute all the way from Philly. I was trying to move out of my parents' house. I was like, I want to get out of here. And basically I called him. I said, listen, I'm going to take one of these other jobs if you guys don't hire me. So I need to know Monday, or a Friday, if I got this job or not. And they called me Friday and they said, okay, we want to offer you the job. And I remember my first boss said he felt like he was Monty Hall giving away the grand prize, because I freaked out. I was so happy because I basically, I put all my cards on the table, and they could have called my bluff, and they didn't. They hired me. They could have said, okay, go take the other job. And I would have, but the job I really wanted was there, and I got it. So you just sometimes have to be really strategic about it, I guess.
Wow, good for you. That's a hard thing to learn, because a lot of people, they look at a big company or some job that they want, and they're afraid to ask for it, and you can lose an opportunity that way, I guess, if you don't put the pressure on people.
Yeah, I was like 21 years old at the time too.
Wow, good for you. That's incredible.
So you never even considered like a fallback plan? It was always going to be in that industry? Yeah,
no, my dad would sometimes say, maybe you need to like consider getting a full-time job, like doing all that other stuff on the side and still pursuing it. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And if I had to, I would have, but because I could always still do it on the side, because you could write, that's like you could do that as a hobby.
As someone who did that and put like music as like my side hustle for 10 years and worked at like a 9-to-5, you made the right choice. I eventually got around to doing it full time, but it took me a while.
Yeah, it does. Like you just have to like be really, but when I first got that job at CMJ, I mean, I was making poverty level salary, and I live in New Jersey, and I moved to North Jersey from South Jersey, but it still cost me almost $300 a month to get to work, because I had to take 3 methods of transportation. And when you're making like $20,000 a year, that's a significant chunk of your income. It was like, I had enough money to pay for rent and to get to work. And it was like, okay, so I got to walk everywhere. Like I couldn't take the subway because it was too expensive. So that's how I walked around Manhattan. That's how I, got to know the city, because I didn't want to go home because I didn't have air conditioning, only had 2 TV channels, and it was really hot, and I had to walk around. So it was like, it forced me to experience Manhattan, because it was expensive, and I was happy to be there though, and happy to have the job, and I would never have changed it for anything.
Wow.
That's great.
It's pretty incredible, the perseverance. And again, the dedication, because one of the things we see on the show with a lot of people that are very successful is that they kind of manifest what they want. And everything from like, you listening to your AC/DC records to like meeting Brian Johnson and getting a kiss on the forehead to going to New York and not having enough money to do anything else, but you're fucking there. And that's what matters. And you made it happen. And now, the bands that you work with are like my mixtape, and that's an amazing thing that people should realize, because I know what? Sometimes just being there, like it's getting out of bed is 9/10 of the battle. And the fact that you're willing to walk there and you're willing to do it, like it's called paying your dues. And I feel like maybe I'm just becoming an old curmudgeon, but I feel like there's a whole new generation where everyone expects that it's just going to happen overnight, or they're just going to be handed it, or it's going to be an easy decision. Go work for this insane amount of money doing this best thing, and here's your dream job. When the truth is like you got to eat a bunch of shit before you get to the caviar.
So much of it. Like I said,
I'm still eating shit. It's
I'm
just
still
like higher grade
myself.
shit.
It's just like, it's just a little bit, more.
I'm not in the back with Starset where they have their whole nice, stuff that you guys have worked out ahead of time. They got their platter and their, almond
but
milk.
there's years of eating shit before you get to that. I mean, that's part of the deal with anything.
And that's one thing that I think that why people have that misconception is that people only show what they want people to see. They're not showing themselves during the struggle. They're taking the highlight reel, presenting that, and like, oh no, look we made an overnight success. We're doing, and then other people see that and they go, well, I'm just gonna have to write a hit song. I can't write 100 songs and work out my songwriting ability. I need to write one hit song. So I'm gonna spend a year writing this one song, and then when people don't like it, they're like, well, what the hell? I thought I was just gonna blow up.
Well, I think it was somebody from the Mighty Mighty Bosstones who said it. Like, it was an overnight success. Well, it was probably a really long, hard, and sleepless night, and it's true.
Yeah.
Nobody just stepped you eat shit, you don't step in it.
Well, one of my favorite things that our benefactor Scott Benson, who by the way is part of our sponsor, our band Lost Symphony, which is technically the reason we're doing this. Amy, we do this because we have to pivot in a world where you can't travel because of the COVIDs. We're now going to do this.
The COVIDs.
But he always says it takes 4 years to become an overnight success. You know, and it's so true because, and there's a lot of people that they get so mad at success, and especially in metal, I feel like now, like if you make money in metal, it's almost like people don't like you anymore. It's like, why are people so mad at success? And like, I found that I've become happy for people that have success. And I feel like there's a lot of bitter people that aren't happy for people that have success, but the people that have the best success, that are doing what they want, that have created their own life, like you, walked both ways in the snow in the middle of Manhattan in the winter, you know, with no AC in the summer. Yeah, no shoes. And all you had was your Pantera record to get you by, to get you enough adrenaline, just get home after that day. And that's why you are where you are.
It's true. I used to listen to...
And I salute you. Fire!
You get it. But yeah, it's not. Everybody has to, you know, pivot and eat shit. That's pretty much what we're all doing.
So you were into, you know, the writing world now and then editorial stuff and all that. And you did that for how long before you kind of moved towards the PR aspect of...
there's a lot of slashes going on in your name.
I know, a lot of hybrids, right? I basically I was writing at CMJ and I was freelancing for Revolver and Spin and any magazine that would take me. Pretty much, I would still write for, even as I worked full time at CMJ, because they would let you have side gig because they were paying you $20,000 a year, and I needed to be able to eat too. Besides pay rent. And because working at CMJ, I was always talking to all the radio people because it was a radio trade magazine, but I also was dealing with publicists for all the places that I wrote. So I had formulated a lot of relationships on that side, on both sides, and people working in-house at the labels. And after like 2 years, I was like, okay, I love this job at CMJ, but I knew it was an out of college job. And there was a job opening at Roadrunner, and they mentioned it to me. Oh, hey, we have a publicity assistant job opening, and do you know anybody? I was like, oh, would you consider me? And they were like, yes. So I went in for a couple interviews for it, and they offered me the job, and I actually turned it down. And they were like, oh, okay, well, fuck you then. But it was tough. I turned it down because I wasn't ready. And they were like, okay, well, you can go screw. But they were like, they were just like shocked that I turned it down because they really made it like they sweetened the deal a couple times. And then a year later, 2 jobs that opened there. And I actually asked to interview for both of them. They said yes. And they were like, listen, if we offer you one or the other, it's going to be, we're not going to take no for an answer again and offer it again. So I actually interviewed for both jobs, and they offered me the job in the radio department. And I took it because working at CMJ, I already dealt with all the radio stations because I coordinated the radio charts for the metal side. And I already had those relationships, and being a writer, having stuff pitched to me, you already kind of know how to turn that around and pitch to other people. So I did radio for a couple years when at Roadrunner, radio was very integral to the success of a lot of bands, including, the Slipknots and the Fear Factories and Sepulturas and Triviums and Killswitches of the world, because back then, there was college radio stations and they were like significant size. And there was, like 250 commercial radio stations, I think, across the country that had metal shows on Friday nights. Some had them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Some had them once a week. Some had them Sunday nights. So there was all these commercial stations in major markets and in small markets in Idaho that had these metal radio shows, and we saw that they would sell our records no matter where they were. We would be like, oh, we got 2 spins here. We can see sales. So back then there was tons of them. It's not like that anymore. So that was an integral part of helping to break a lot of those bands. So, I would deal with Sirius. I would deal with WSOU. I would deal with WAAF. I would deal with WZOR in Appleton, Wisconsin, all over the country, KASW in Seattle. And I did video. So I would do video for bands like Nickelback and Theory of a Dead Man, dealing with all the local video shows and Friday night videos and MTV and stuff like that. So I did that for several years. And as the company started changing, they wanted to make some changes and they wanted to move me to the press department. And so I did, because it just made sense. I was already pitching to radio for years, and being a writer, I already knew all the editors and writers at magazines because I wrote with them or for them. So it was an easy transition.
So can I ask you real quick, just for the listeners, when you say
Sure.
you were working in radio, and you referenced a lot of it already, what exactly was your primary job? Were you trying to get radio play for artists? Like, what was sort of a day in the life as the radio person?
Well, I did it didn't matter if the station was commercial, community, satellite, college, online, whatever. If they had a metal radio programming, it was my job to, to support their efforts, to get them to play our artists, to interview our artists, to do giveaways, to do ticket giveaways, to go cover the show, present the show, anything involved with promoting the artists on these radio stations. Like I said, it was 100,000 watt commercial radio stations and 150 watt college stations. And there was radio charts. So you were trying to get the airplay to get them up the radio charts too. So it was, a combination of promoting them and getting them number one on the radio charts, and promoting them and getting them interviews, giveaways, all kinds of promotions with the station. So that's what I did. And it was everyone from Slipknot to Killswitch to Cradle of Filth, Obituary, Trivium, Devil Driver, Machine Head, Opeth, tons and tons of bands, Dragon Force over the years.
So without going super deep into that, what does that look like? How do you say to a radio station, hey, I got this artist, like you should play them? Like what kind of tactics or what tools do you use to?
A lot of those radio hosts and radio programmers, they're really passionate about the music. So to take some of those hours of their radio programming and dedicate it to a metal show, they have to know that they have the audience, that it works, and that they're into it. So most of those guys loved Roadrunner, and it was easy. And most of the stuff we were putting out, they all loved it and they wanted to play it. I mean, it was Machine Head and Typo and Sepultura and Fear Factory and Killswitch. I mean, to get that played.
I gotta tell you, when I was doing my scam in high school, I did a ton of stuff with Roadrunner. In fact, I got yelled at because their first show that Slipknot ever played, other than with Anthrax in Boston, was at the Ozfest 99. And I had an interview with them, and I was supposed to, I forget who I was supposed to talk to, but no one had any idea who they were. And they kind of all 9 of them crowded around me. I think I ended up talking to Cory a bunch, but apparently he was like blowing out his vocal folds or something like that on the first tour.
And he wasn't allowed to talk.
He wasn't supposed to talk, but he just started talking to me. He just started talking to me because he was mad cool. And he invited me on the bus because I was that loser kid that brought my guitar backstage, and I had them all sign it. And 2 or 3 of them weren't wearing masks. And somehow it got back to Maria Gonzalez, who worked at Roadrunner at the time.
Oh yeah, I worked with her for many years.
Yeah, super, super cool, and we laugh about this now. But I came both days of the show, and the next day, oh my God, I got yelled at. Like, you saw them without mask! How dare you go on the bus? And meanwhile, I'm like 15 or 16. It made me cry. Because I'm like,
whoa, you have tear ducts?
I know, right? Not anymore. Listen, they're long gone. Like that, but then I was sensitive. It's my emo phase.
You were sensitive, Ben?
I get that. I get that.
Right. So I went back the next day, and I was like, Cory, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to look at you without mask, and you guys are great. And he was like, dude, like, you're cool, and blah, blah, blah. Like, and he like actually, I think he called back the label and was like, why are you picking on this kid? And like, he had my back, but like, I remember like, I saw them without masks, and I had no idea how big of a deal it was, because who knew that Slipknot was going to be the biggest band ever? But I can tell you, when Maria sent me their first unmixed song, A Bounce from Ross Robinson's, computer or whatever, that had eyeless and surfacing on it, I called my buddy Dan Hartwell, who we just had on the show, who ran a local festival, and I said, I know the band that you need to book. And I went backstage, and from the tour bus, convinced them to play this festival in Boston called Loco Bazooka. And by the time they came, and I think they played for free or whatever, we covered their expenses, they were the biggest band on the show.
Yeah, sounds like you guys lucked out there.
Or I have good ears, and I knew that they were badass.
Right.
The first thing I said is, that's fucking drums? Joey Jordison blew my mind. Like, there was the I said, what are they so angry about? And I remember seeing them. I still have pictures from that first show. And it was literally the first time I was like, okay, not only does it make sense to have this many people on stage, but like I'm tired watching a band. It's like how you feel after a Slayer show, listening to a band and having your eyebrows singed off. Slipknot made me, like, in my soul, feel that.
They do that. They have that effect on people.
But going back, I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize the incredible importance of radio and radio play and how much effort and how many people you have to team around to make something like that work, you know? So, I mean, it's so interesting to hear from your perspective, like what all goes into that and getting songs played on the radio and how you help artists, you know, kind of accomplish that. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I loved it because the radio department was big and we had regionals that were covering different chunks of the country. Like the New York regional would cover like Maine to like Virginia. And then there would be somebody covering the Southwest region. Then there would be somebody on the West Coast. And I covered nationally, but like a lot of times I always say that a lot of our radio regionals, they were married or they had families. And on the weekends when there would be like an Ozfest and there would be we would have 6 bands on Ozfest and there'd be meet and greets and promotions and roadie for a day and stuff like that. They would tell our boss, Dave, like, Dave, Amy's like young and Amy doesn't have kids. Can she go out and cover that for us? We have our kids this weekend. And my boss would be like, you want to go out? I'd be like, yeah, I loved it. I would be like, I had to make sure that Zakk Wylde would sign his guitars or that Corey Taylor and Joey would be ready for their meet and greets. And there were times when it was like, I'll put on a mask if I can't find these guys and go do it because I'm as tall as Joey or whatever. But
that is fucking hysterical.
It was true. I mean,
I think I had a 2-hour conversation thinking that you were Joey one time.
I know. I double for him. I'm his doppelganger. But you know, I used to.
No, you're not. You're much better looking than Joey Jordison. Just saying.
Well, we love him. He was.
Oh, I love Joey too, but he's not Tom Cruise. He's the greatest freaking metal drummer. Plays guitar like a motherfucker. Never stops. I give him that. I'm not beautiful, but I can play piano. You know what I mean? Like we all have our moments.
Yeah, you have your qualities. But yeah, I loved it.
My mom says.
And all the listeners say it too. But yeah, it was. I was the most fun I ever had. You know, I was young. I loved it. I loved getting to meet all the radio programmers at the radio stations and like making the bands do the stuff they needed to do. And a lot of times it was tough because they're on tour. They want to go have fun. They got other things going on. And
can you give us a specific scenario? Like Carrie King didn't want to come out because I didn't have enough green M&Ms. So instead I had to get Rob Flynn. Like there must be something.
Oh yeah, there's tons of it. Like there'd be times where it was like, somebody overslept or somebody didn't have their laundry or somebody was like, oh, we don't do these meet and greets here. We do them back by the stage. Well, this radio station does it back at catering because they're having a barbecue and the fans won and they won this promotion and they don't have the right pass. So they can't come to the backstage area. We have to go there. And it was just like making that stuff happen. And just like sometimes band members would be arguing and I'd be like, hey guys, we have to go do this. And like, oh, we're not doing it. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to get fired if you don't do this. But I was not afraid to play the.
Just imagining all the Star Set shows ever.
It's like, and we always have Ernie was always there too, like at the Star Set shows, the little dog. But,
oh yeah! Oh my God!
Well, true story. So Corey and I, mainly myself, got wasted at a Star Set show, and I started first off, I stole Ernie the dog and ran around and like to all the fans with Ernie. But then I apparently I had to go back through my stories on Instagram the next day. Like got Dustin like yelling at the band backstage and thought it was hilarious and was calling him by the wrong name or something, and I'm like horrified that I like. Because I don't drink very often, almost ever. And that like these guys must hate me. And I called Siobhán the next day. I'm like, I'm never drinking again. I'm so sorry. Please say sorry to the whole band. And she's like, they all thought you were funny and it was fine. Blah, 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 blah. Like meanwhile, I'm like going back, deleting my stories. Like, how dare I? Like, I'm horrible.
You didn't read the room.
No, he rarely does.
The dog was cute though. Oh my God.
He is very cute.
So cool.
He is very cute, Ernie.
Well, let me ask you, and back to radio play, not to stay on it for too long, but, did you ever find it difficult to get stations to play certain songs or, at least from what I understand of Star Set, I think a lot of times some stations in different areas might be more reluctant to take a leap and play a song that they don't think is good or is going to be a hit. And I just wonder, like, what role you play in that and helping to kind of translate the importance of playing a certain song, or, you know, like, it seems like you kind of have to have a creative mind for that and know how to talk to people and encourage them that something is good for them to play.
Yeah, it's very much watching what they're doing and their trends and pointing out why something might be a fit for them. You know, a lot of times I was very lucky because Roadrunner was a brand, and a lot of these stations knew that what they were getting was going to be good because it was on Roadrunner, and they had the faith of that and the relationship with me and to support what I was doing, and to, you know, they knew. It's like it's with anything in the music industry and a lot of industries is doing solids. It's like, okay, if she has this new band, Killswitch Engage, and I play it, she'll help me get something with Slipknot when Killswitch was first coming up. So it was just a matter of, hey, like,
Well, that's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't hard really though, because I had such great bands.
You know, it's like, do you play alive or just breathing, or do you put on eyeless? Like, I mean, like, literally, Killswitch. So Killswitch Engage was, they're from obviously Massachusetts, so like we love them. And we're friends with the guys from Shadows Fall and like that whole scene that came out. But I gotta tell you, with Killswitch, I always tell people, because you probably know this, like, after like 18 to 20, your brain hardens, and a lot of people don't want to hear new music. I'm that guy. When Dimebag Darrell died, metal was over for me. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just saying it's because I now produce so much music that, like, my brain doesn't internalize it. So every time I hear a Meshuggah song, a Zeppelin song falls out, and I love it. I mean, I've seen these bands, and a lot of the times I'm like, wow, Mastodon is really awesome. I didn't know for the last, aren't they new? They're like, dude, they're like 15 years old. Oh. But it's one of those things where I gotta tell you, Killswitch Engage, when I heard them, I said to myself, this might be my favorite band. And every single time I see them live, I still say to myself, this might be my favorite band. And in fact, I'm also a huge fan of the Kemper for guitars. And they're the greatest demo of that Kemper, the guitar thing that they do, because the first time I ever heard 2,000 people totally quiet was when Killswitch Engage was like, did it, and then they stopped and their noise gate hit in and the whole stage was quiet. And I was like, holy shit. Everyone was quiet for at least 1 second for 2,000 people. And Killswitch Engage, I gotta tell you, from Boston, they make me so happy. And of course, as a loser, I people are always like, do you like Jesse or do you like Howard? And then to see both of them on a song together, I'm like, if they can be friends and cool, can't we all just get along?
Truth. It is. That's just the cliche to even ask when people are like, oh, who do you like better, Jesse or Howard? It's like, it's two totally different sounds and two totally different styles.
Do you like ass or tits, man? You know, like,
exactly.
They're both good in their own ways.
I agree.
You would
having worked with both incarnations.
Yeah. I don't work with any ass or tits. I'm totally nothing down there. It's just a slit.
A little while ago, you mentioned that that you had like the relationship with some of these program directors and music directors and stuff, and that helped kind of facilitate the, letting them know they could trust your not only the Roadrunner but your recommendations and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about, especially in an industry like yours and ours in a bigger sense, how important those relationships and developing them early on and maintaining them throughout your career has been?
I feel like it's always really important to nurture your relationships and take care of people, because people will remember that. It's like one hand washes the other. You're always, it doesn't cost me anything to do somebody a favor when I can. If I can do it, I will. There's certain things I can't make happen because there's limitations. And if a band is only going to do certain things, and they have set criteria, that's the best that can be done. But if I can make something happen or hook something up, I will. And a lot of times, that's just really important because people will remember that, because you might need something as well, so you have to hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Something keeps popping up on my.
No, that's okay.
It happens a surprising amount on the show.
Yeah. I think most episodes there's something, which is totally, it's a thing now.
who is doing this? I'm like, why do I have these 12 new messages?
Well, the crazy part was when we had Steve Stevens on the show, he was wearing these sunglasses and we could actually see the ads coming up as they were coming. And by the way, just to everyone on this, how cool was it that I didn't watch the Super Bowl because I don't.
I
know
honestly
about-
didn't even
I
realize
don't know
it was
about
happening.
soccer or whatever, but I heard Billy Idol showed up with Steve Stevens, so that was cool.
Yeah, with
I
Miley
think they did
Cyrus.
with Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus, I'll say it right now. I hate people that crap on that girl. She's literally one of the most talented people that have come out. And as somebody whose heart has hardened, you know, I've seen her play like the Grammys, and she did like, I think she sang, was it last year at the Grammys? And I remember thinking to myself that she was actually the best singer. I think other than Janelle Monáe or whatever her name was, she's
Janelle Monáe.
amazing. But everyone else, like she blew them off stage and everyone's like, Miley Cyrus. And I'm like, dude, she's the best. Because everyone wants to hate on her because of the Hannah Montana and all the weird stuff. But like, she's super talented. And even when she went and toured, she took the Flaming Lips with her. You know what I mean?
She did.
Like,
She put out like some kind of a release with them too, I think.
it was amazing. Everyone's like, well, the greatest thing was going to her show because everyone, when she toured on that tour, thought that they were going to go see her play Wrecking Ball because that was like what came out.
Yeah,
Instead, she came out like a Trix thing of cereal with a giant dildo and smoked bong rips on stage.
Yeah, she really
and
did.
sang songs about pussy. And all you could see were adults with their kids in the audience going, ah! And I'm like, this is awesome. The Flaming Lips are playing the psychedelic shit, and Miley Cyrus can sing. She's great. So she's like walking around, like changing costumes faster than Madonna and telling everyone to fuck off and handing joints to like 16-year-olds in the front row. It was fantastic.
She's your new queen.
How did we get onto Miley Cyrus? I have no idea. Oh, Super Bowl.
How do you get on Miley Cyrus?
It's a good question. You should figure that out.
Do
in
I
your
have to
own
talk
time.
to Billy Ray first? You can't break his heart, though.
Well, let's go back. So, so Amy, you mentioned at a certain point you transitioned or you got pulled into the PR department at your job and you transitioned from doing radio into more PR. So what did that look like when you shifted departments? Like what did you do now on a daily basis when you moved over there?
It really wasn't much difference because when I switched over to the PR department, it was basically doing the same thing, just with different people. Instead of radio stations, it was the media, other media in terms of magazines, TV shows, late night television, online podcasts, reaction channels, which is now, that wasn't back then, but it was really just doing the same thing, pitching to just a different sect of the media and telling stories a little bit more. Whereas in radio, you're like jockeying for position and airplay and promotions that help jack the spins and up the charts. In press, you're doing a lot more storytelling and building a press profile. It's a little bit more long term. It's not about the single. It's about the band's story and shepherding it and protecting it and managing it. So I learned a lot more about handling like issues and crises in press, because in radio you're basically, it's very methodical and it's almost statistical. And in press, it's a lot more of creating a story and telling it over time and dealing with a lot of things that will pop up in the interim that you're not expecting.
Can you give us an example of like a crisis that you've had to deal with that, like, whether someone died or something crazy happened or a band broke up and you actually said to yourself, like, what the fuck do I do?
Oh yeah, it's happened quite a few times. I've had, when Paul Gray from Slipknot died, that was probably the hardest professional day of my life. He was my friend and he was a brother to people who I consider family, which is the members of Slipknot. And that was really hard when that happened, because it was like I had to be a professional, represent the band to the media, and also represent the company in helping the band navigate getting the news out and the press conference that they had in Iowa, and also dealing with my own grief and my own sadness and watching people that I really cared about struggle with. Hold on, stop going there, babe. My dog is like trying to go by utility room. I don't even know why. Babe, stop it.
Because you're on a podcast and your dog's 2020ing you.
I know. I'm surprised he hasn't come over to try to get on the screen. He'll probably pop over here in a few minutes.
Good. We encourage it.
I know. He should be.
Who let the dogs out, Amy? You.
I know. Who?
You.
Higgs, come here. You want to come over here? Come on. He'll pop over here in a second.
That's so cute.
It was when Kyle from We Came as Romans died. That was also really difficult, because at that point it was like so... like the media that didn't cover We Came as Romans were covering his death, like TMZ and major media. And it's because when somebody dies, people click, they want to see about it, and just dealing. But those people were always really respectful. And
let me ask you about Paul, for example. Can you tell us something that maybe our listeners or viewers don't know, that maybe Paul would want people to know about him, that, like, you know, now that this has all happened and it's all over, that you can share with us so we can bring him to life for a moment again?
Just the thing about him was that he used to do a lot of the legwork and a lot of the heavy lifting for me for Slipknot, because, you know, Joey and Cory and Clown at the time, they were the ones that everybody wants and that only the biggest level of the media would get. But we would also have tons of the core media that still we wanted their support and needed it. And Paul did a lot of that. Is
that why I always got Paul for the interviews?
Yeah, because you didn't matter. No, I'm just kidding.
By the way, he was always so sweet and wonderful to me.
He was always.
It broke my heart. I mean, obviously, I can't pretend I was even close to friends with him, but like he literally went. All those guys went so far out of their way every single time I've met them. You know, even up until, like, I think a summer ago, where the last time they came around, they're just the sweetest guys. And when Paul, you know, it's just one of those things where I look at my wall and I go, please, let's not lose another one.
Yeah, it sucks. It was really, really sad because he was just always the person, like, I had to rely on him a lot to shoulder a lot of the work. And he always did it. He was just always just chill and low key. You know, I always, never had any drama or issues with him. He was just really, really professional and easy to work with. You know, and he made my job easier, which I always appreciated, because it might look like a fun job, and it is, and it looks glamorous and sexy and fun all the time. It's not, because you basically are dealing with creative people who are very, very sensitive and precious and particular about their art, and they should be, and you're helping get that out into the world, and you're helping shape how people perceive them. And sometimes that's not easy, because you're dealing with somebody who, creative people tend to just be more emotionally fragile and emotionally, just handling that. You have to kind of like make sure that you know how to process that and be a lot of different things for them, whether it's publicists, therapists, just you have to be able to listen, and you have to be able to act even faster.
Wait, the guy that wrote "Fuck it all, fuck this world, fuck everything that you stand for" is sensitive? I would never have
most sensitive
guessed.
guy I've ever met, Corey Taylor.
No, I'm joking. Like, in fact, he's such a. If anyone hasn't heard, he's such a great orator. I remember going and seeing him just talk, and the guy's hilarious and has a million stories to tell. And man, his lyrics. I remember. It's one of those things that I remember again being a kid and reading Slipknot lyrics, just kind of like Nine Inch Nails, and going, even if I don't like this music or not, like, these lyrics are badass and mad.
They are. And he is an emotional guy. I've had some really powerful moments with him over the years, and he's awesome. I never have any, he was always the type that would go the extra mile and was amazing to work with.
Can you give us any specifics on that?
Like, one time I remember we had a bunch of press set up, a bunch of phoners, and he missed like 3 of them, and I couldn't get a hold of him. And he finally called me back because it was at the office, and I was connect all his phoners. And he was like, Ames, I'm so sorry. He's like, me and Griffey fell asleep. This was when his son Griffin was a baby. He goes, listen, I know I wasted some people's time, so every person that I had an interview scheduled with, I'll give him 15 extra minutes. I mean, he didn't have to do that. He's Corey fucking Taylor, and he did it. And these are big interviews, but he still, because he wanted to let the people know that he was sorry. Like, it was just a sweet thing. He fell asleep with his son, but he wanted to let them know that he valued their time, and he valued that they were willing to reschedule with him. He's like, everybody gets 15 extra minutes. And there's a guy who didn't have 15 extra minutes to give 3 interviews. So
yeah.
And that value, that makes somebody like me, who's got to be like, oh my God, I can't get Corey on the phone. But hey, he's just, he's taking care of something, an emergency. You have to think on your feet and not lose the interviewer and not lose the media, but not lose the relationship with the artist. So you want to keep them all copacetic. So if you have to kind of get creative in that, you have to. So
yeah, it seems like it's a balancing act at times.
You're serving 2 masters always, and that's never, somebody's always going to be unhappy.
And speaking of that, when you don't have to name names or anything, but have you run into the opposite, where you don't have someone like Corey Taylor who maybe makes your job 10 times more difficult because of their attitude?
And you can name names. It's totally okay if you'd like to.
Well, I won't name names because it won't be okay for me, but I'm lucky. Excuse me, pardon me. I'm very lucky that most of my guys and girls are easy to work with, and they respect other people's time and the stuff that but there's times when life and shit happens, or things go off the rails, or somebody's just in a bad mood and doesn't want to do something that you've set up for them. And it sucks, but you just kind of have to reboot, hit the reset button, recalibrate, and just make it happen and move forward. Because if you just get stuck getting mad about it, or, hey, you can't miss this interview.
Well, can you tell Cory that he missed the interview tonight so we get 15 minutes with him?
I'll text him right now.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. No worries.
No, but I mean, people like you are so incredibly important. And you've said so many interesting things that, just being such an integral part of like crafting the story and being on the journey with so many artists, and that's like something that so many people underestimate, is that it's one thing to have great musical ideas or a great lyric, or, you're a sensitive person, you want to share something with the world, but you do often need that like really steady person to be there alongside you to help navigate you through all the different things that come flying at you. And it's so many people don't get to see that behind the scenes element of it,
No, they don't. Like a lot of times, like a lot of my family doesn't understand what I do, and they just think it's fun and going to concerts, and they don't understand. It's like, well, when I got 6 people yelling at me, tell me I'm not doing this, or I'm busy, or I got to go find this, or my girlfriend's here, or I'm hanging out with this girl, or things are happening, or that somebody's running late, or somebody's passes in here, and the band's going on stage, and you have to get there, and everybody's late. It's not as like it's not all fun and games. It's like a lot of times you have to think on your feet and just make something out of nothing, or make something seem like what it's not. It's just like one of the trade secrets, I guess.
Yeah.
It's so it seems, especially in your current position, you have the responsibility of, the outward face of a lot of these artists. Like how serious is that for you, and how do you make sure that you're always putting the best foot forward for these artists, even when you have a lot on your docket? Because you have a very successful company with a lot of bands on it.
Yeah, we basically, I always protect the artist. We'll always, make sure that they're represented correctly and that we're putting them in the best light. But if certain things happen, we still work to protect the artist, get everything, get the information, get the plan, get the strategy going. But it's all like, we're not going to, there's a situation where it's like an artist can do something to ruin a media relationship. And it's like, you have to kind of like be save both, and that requires thinking on your feet.
Do you have, I guess, I don't want to say like fire drills, or do you have like a prepared, response set up for certain situations that may come up often, or are you always reactive when you have to tackle something? Not always super serious, but just how do you run the day to day and prepare for things that come up?
Well, yes, a lot of things are reactive, and you can't prepare for them because you have to think on your feet with them. But then there's certain things where it could be something as basic as people not understanding that like a press strategy can be not doing press. I have 2 front people who maintain mystique and make people want them even more by doing very little press. And a lot of times people will come to me and be like, I want to interview this person. I say, I'm sorry, they're not available. And they're like, well, did you even ask? I don't need to ask, because long before you ever emailed me months and months ago, I had a conversation with the artist and their manager and said, here's what we want to do. Here's our strategy. Here's who we can talk to. Here's who we're not going to talk to. And here's why. And if you don't fit the criteria of the list of press they want to do, because 2 of these artists have done press for 15 years, they have earned the right to say no now. And if they want to create a mystique and a mystery about themselves, it is a perfectly viable and successful press strategy.
Well, what happens when you have a guy like, was it Taco Man in Slipknot, where like they had to literally be under wraps? What's it like to keep a secret like that, where like everyone in the world's like the amount of forensic science that has gone into trying to figure out that it's stupendous.
It's his own discipline. Sometimes
what's it like for you?
You just have to not. I didn't handle that particular situation, but when that stuff happens, you just have to be really very careful with the wording that you say, because if you say no comment, sometimes a media outlet that is a comment. So you just don't say anything. That's why you can't respond sometimes. But yeah, you just have to have you just have to be really careful about what you say, or how you say it, or saying anything at all. So who is he? I actually don't know.
Is that a true story? You have no idea?
I don't know.
No comment. I don't believe you, but that's awesome. You're
doing
your job so well. So
See,
well.
All this is a
clinic.
She's a pro, Ben.
She's a total pro.
This is a clinic.
I don't know. She's hanging out, chilling afterwards, getting some vino, probably playing some piano with her.
I am. Cool. Yeah, he is. He's the most interesting man in the world.
We've got a few minutes left in this first episode, and we hope that you'll join us for a second. But and I think in the second one, I'd love to get some more, maybe some tips and tricks that you've learned along the way for people that are not just establishing a brand or band, but also any kind of brand, and how they can put themselves out there. But we don't quite have time to dive into that right now. I guess so. Before we get into that, what else do you do with your time outside of the PR world?
Well, I always tell people it is a lifestyle more so than it is a job. Like, it does eat into the weekends, late hours, early hours. And that's fine, because I always say, a lot of my friends, they have jobs that they hate, and that's why they have to go to happy hour. I'm not a big drinker, so I don't relate to that, but I get why they would have to go to happy hour after a shitty day at work and just get drunk to let go. I never have that. I mean, I might be working till 10 o'clock that night at a show, but I never feel like I hate my fucking job.
Well,
ever.
If you go see Machine Head and
exactly.
Playing the Burning Red, that is happy hour.
Yeah,
it literally is happy hour for me. Like, what the fuck do you need to do? And I'll tell you this, when I was blessed enough to go see Typo and hang out with those guys, Peter Seal drank enough for everybody. That guy went through like 3 bottles of wine in a show. And he might have been 6'19", which is fine. But like, I don't know how any human being could consume that amount of alcohol and still play Christian Woman for 10 minutes and be fine.
He had a hollow leg, I guess. But yeah, it's...
Is that what Pantera were writing about? He is hollow as... was that a Peter Steele homage?
I think it was.
Okay. Because you're the queen of metal, so I have to find it from the real source.
I'm just lying. Or maybe I'm not.
Well, that's the job of PR, right? Half the time it's just a lie. For them. It's for a good cause.
You say lie, we say spin.
Do you say white lie, or do you say black lie because it's metal?
We say spin.
There you go.
It's all about how you spin it.
Oh, just like the magazine.com.
Yes, true.
So, Amy, before we first off ask you to come back, if you'll be kind enough, what can people who are listening and watching do to find out more about you? I know you have a blog. I know that you talk about fashion, all kinds of cool stuff.
I did, yeah.
If they don't have the attention span to come back later this week because they're morons, tell them how they can find out right now and get some instant gratification. No, they probably hate me. Okay, it's about me, Amy. It's not about you. They hate me.
We're gonna have to release a second. We'll release a second version with your mic muted.
I know. We'll just erase you out.
Take out all the coughing.
Where people can find about the company would be adamslitterpr.com, but I'm also on all socials: Instagram, Facebook.
I followed you
under my name. Did you?
I did.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look.
I was gonna go like some of your stuff so you would follow me back and one of those creeps, but it's really hard though. It's at the Benny Goodman. So if you're confused, if there's a Benny Goodman one,
isn't there a comedian named Benny Goodman or something? It sounds like
there was a clarinet player. He was the king of swing.
Okay. The king of the swing.
I am neither a king nor do I swing.
Okay,
but I do sing.
Look at that. You got good delivery.
So we'll have some links to your sites.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you coming on for this first hour.
I had a good time.
And,
thank you so much. And you guys have been 2020 and much love to the heavens.
Please go to 2020-d.com and subscribe so you do not miss future episodes.
And stick around for part 2 with Amy.
Well, our band, our videos, some of them will get 20 million downloads, but we're not selling 20 million albums. Mm-hmm. So, like, technically, if you equate that to 20 years ago, whatever, we should all be millionaires.
Yeah.
So, but we're not. We make a decent living. It's like a good business. We're working for a good business. We get the corner office with the window. That's what it is now for bands at that echelon. But there are still like bigger echelons that are around, like Five Finger Death Punch. Those guys make tons of money, and it's just I feel like it's harder, I guess, to move echelons, like to go from the band in the van to the band in the bus, and then the band in the bus to the band with the buses and the trailers to bring your stage show with you.